The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
Pacers 130, Knicks 121. Pacers 3, Knicks 1. The Pacers are one game away from a trip to the NBA Finals.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast.
Wow. What a response from the Pacers. This is what all their series have looked like. A great start, a bad game 3, an impressive game 4. And they are once again up 3-1. They are one win away from their second ever trip to the NBA Finals. They were awesome in many ways today. They corrected a lot of their problems from game 3. Tyrese Haliburton just had the best game and moment of his career. Benedict Mathurin, welcome to the playoffs. An exceptional game from him. Pascal Siakam with the quietest 30-point game in conference finals history. Aaron Nesmith is made of vibranium, and the Pacers have 3 wins against the New York Knicks after just 4 games. What a night for the Pacers. I wanted to talk about adjustments to lead off today's show. The Pacers had quite a few, and I really wanted to talk about their ability to identify changes the Knicks were making and immediately reply to them. And we will talk about those things later. None of those deserve to be the lead today. Tyrese Haliburton deserves to be the lead today, and Benedict Mathurin and Pascal Siakam deserve a ton of time today, and Aaron Nesmith deserves a ton of time today. Tyrese Haliburton, with Pacers legends in the building everywhere, with his dad back in the arena, with Reggie Miller 2 feet away, just delivered one of the greatest performances from a Pacers player ever, especially on this stage. A chance to seize control of a conference final series against the team's longtime rivals right after a game that he pointed to himself post-game and said, "This is on me. It was my fault. Game 3 went that way." The Pacers lost their pace. Haliburton's the pace setter. Their offensive flow wasn't there. He's in charge of a lot of that. They never looked like the Pacers. He is the guy who makes all that possible. And he said it, and everybody else took their own blame for it. But it's what Tyrese Haliburton is amazing at. Responding with his dad in a suite, he responded. What a game from Tyrese Haliburton. 32 points, 12 rebounds. By far his most exceptional compared to expectation stat. 12 boards in this game. Pascal Siakam joking post-game that Haliburton stole some rebounds from him. 15 assists. That requires your teammates to make shots, and they did. The Pacers with 29 assists in this game. Haliburton had over half of them. The Knicks had 17 assists as a team. Tyrese Haliburton had 15 by himself. 4 steals. The Pacers had 11 as a team. He had a third of them. The Knicks had 7 total. And the one that always stands out with Tyrese Haliburton, 0, like the number on his jersey, turnovers in the game. Rick Carlisle joking afterwards that there will eventually be a stat named after Tyrese Haliburton, likely related to the 0 turnovers. Triple-double, no turnovers on this stage. Are you kidding me? That is as good as it possibly gets for Tyrese Haliburton, who had an exceptional game in the in-season tournament against the Celtics last year with 26, 10, and 13 with no turnovers, who had a triple-double in the playoffs last year against the Bucks, albeit not close to the scoring output. This is his 3rd triple-double. They've all been on huge stages. This one on the biggest stage yet. This one featuring by far his best ever game. He would not be denied. And I thought that this one, when people talk about Tyrese Haliburton being aggressive, I frequently think that they are over-indexing on him just getting to the rim and trying to score in the paint. Don't get me wrong. That is a huge part of Tyrese Haliburton's success. But when he talks about his own aggressiveness, this is the kind of game, I can't talk, that he is referring to. When he gets into the paint and can make plays from there. Yes, he hit 5 threes. Right wing, 3 at the top of the key, 1 on the left wing. But he hit 2 jumpers right at the top of the key. He took his floater 3 times. He did score 4 times right at the basket, but he was getting shots from everywhere because he was penetrating and trying to get 2 feet in the paint to keep the Pacers offense flowing. And of course, by the way, 15 assists. Unbelievable passing game from him, as is customary for a guy who is among the best passers in the NBA right now. And they all go to different guys. 3 of his first 4 to Nesmith, then Toppin, Siakam, Nembhard, Nesmith again, Tony Bradley, Benedict Mathurin, Obi Toppin again, the dagger. three late in the fourth quarter. He found everybody in all sorts of ways for threes, for twos, for everything. Every single thing that makes Tyrese Haliburton an exceptional player. And the reason I said I thought it was so dumb, even though I understood why they did it, why they were so wrong when he got voted overrated, is because no one is this central without being able to have turnovers, right? I don't want to stray too far from the Pacers. I cover the Fever and Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is an unbelievable passer. She has 3 or 4 turnovers every night. That's not to take away from what she does. That is an expected volume of turnovers for someone who passes and has as many assists as someone like Tyrese Haliburton does with this frequency. He has 0 or 1 all the time. And as I talk about on the show, when he has 2 in a game, it is agonizing. You can see him so frustrated with himself because he overthrew a pass or he misread something with somebody. He hates it. It is so rare. And he's not doing the Darren Collison 7 assists a game. Darren Collison in the building tonight. Darren Collison, fine passer. He was doing a lot of simple stuff. Here, you on the wing, take this. Here, you in the post, take this. Tyrese Haliburton is jumping through the air, pirouetting, lobbing it across the court between defenders, flinging it 30 feet ahead in transition to his running teammates. Risky, challenging, difficult passes that very few players in the league can actually make and even fewer actually throw because of the risks that they come with. Tyrese Haliburton says, no problem. No problem. He was one of 4 players with 9 or more assists per game this season. The other 3 being Cade Cunningham, Nikola Jokic, and Trae Young. Cade Cunningham averaged 4.4 turnovers per game. Jokic 3.3. Trae Young 4.7. Tyrese Haliburton was 1.6. I know that these numbers are known, but this is what makes him so dominant when he's at his absolute best like this. He does not mess up these high leverage passing plays, and his teammates make the shots, and he gets in the paint, and he's flicking in jumpers that he loves, and he's making threes, and the Tony Eastat is coming. He took 11 twos in this game. An absolutely unbelievable, one of the best Pacers performances ever game from Tyrese Haliburton, who had 20, 10, and 8 at halftime. That alone would have made him probably the lead discussion point for this show. And he was even better at a lot of things in the second half. His defense has been has been pretty good in the postseason. Plus 16 in this game. This was a super duper star performance from a super duper star player. In the playoffs right now, there are 2 players averaging 9 assists per game. It's Tyrese Haliburton, who leads the league entering this game with 9.4. That average is going to climb. And James Harden. Haliburton, many fewer assists. In fact, he's the only guy in the top 5 of assists per game in the playoffs with less than 2.9 turnovers per game. He's going to be below 2 after this game. He is the Pacers offense. They often go as he go. That's not fair to everyone else. They have a lot of exceptional players on the team, but as is well known, their identity, they play the way they do because of him. He has the ball all the time. Everybody plays random and fast and gets open and cuts because of him. And they know they're going to get the ball, and they know they're going to be involved, and they know they're going to have chances to score, and they know he's going to have chances to score. And Tyrese Haliburton, 1 game after, settling too much, not attacking the rim as much as he likes, not attacking mismatches in the right ways, getting out of them with screens, getting off the ball, getting into the paint and overpassing quite often and not taking the shots that they like, not taking the floaters he wants. So many things that the Pacers are all about weren't happening. Kyle Taylor and I broke those down yesterday. In this game, they all happened, and Tyrese Haliburton led it to happen with brilliance in every aspect of his game, in a game that will go into the pantheon of Pacers performances and gets them 1 win away from the NBA Finals. Unbelievable. Leading scorer in the game, leading assists man in the game, tied for the leading rebounder in the game, the leading steals man in the game, and obviously the fewest turnovers of anyone who played. All belongs to 1 player in a conference finals game, and that is Tyrese Haliburton, and the Pacers lead 3-1. Just unbelievably good.
The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorites or diving into player props, from 3-pointers to steals to assists. There's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
The Knicks lose 130 to 121 to the Pacers in Game 4, and the season is officially on the brink.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast.
13 is the number. Unlucky 13, because that is the number of teams in NBA history that have come back from a 3-1 deficit to win a series. There have been it's a little more front heavy in recent history, relative recent history. I don't think it's happened since 2020, or was that just the time that there was 2 of them? But that one, everyone's always said you kind of throw away. There was technically no home court advantage. That was during the bubble, everything else. But pretty unlikely. It's about the same likelihood of happening that the Knicks win this series as the Knicks winning 3 playoff games while trailing by 20 or more. So if you want to use that as the honey to make the medicine go down here, about a 3% chance over the course of NBA history for them to come back and win this series. So this one stings pretty bad. Losing this game and again makes it feel extra crappy that they lost focus for the final 3 minutes of Game 1, choked that game away, and now find themselves in a 3-1 hole, because I really think this was probably the best that the Pacers have played them in this series. And I think that it's been competitive otherwise. And now, unfortunately, though, they find themselves on the brink. And as much as I hate to give empathy to Boston ever, this is probably about what Boston Celtics fans felt like last round after the Knicks pulled off the 2 improbable comebacks to eventually take a 3-1 lead despite the razor-thin margins. But that, unfortunately, is playoff basketball.
Yeah, it is. And you know what doesn't help when you have razor-thin margins? Playing Josh Hart 36 minutes. They didn't start him, but they essentially started him, Alex. Tom Thibodeau, I don't know if he needs to see a sports psychologist. I don't know if he needs to see our friends over at BetterHelp. Sure, maybe I'm agenda pushing here. The numbers scream that the Knicks are very, very good when Deuce McBride is on the floor. For people who missed our episode yesterday, coming into this one, a plus 25.3 net rating in this series. But to me, and we talked about this pre-show, it didn't have to be Deuce McBride tonight. I don't think he played particularly well by his standards. 3 points in 15 minutes. Could have been DeLon Wright. Could have been Landry Shamet, maybe even preferably over both those guys. It just could not be Josh Hart, because Indiana, as much as they have all series, played off him. You saw its greatest impact near the end of this game where Jalen Brunson turns the corner, should have a layup. Andrew Nembhard, he's 20 feet away from Josh Hart, covering Brunson, and Brunson panics and misses a runner. OG Anunoby driving, should have a dunk. It's Aaron Nesmith, again, helping off of Josh Hart, and he's there to take a charge, right? They didn't guard him. You're playing with a hand behind your back. You've been playing with a hand behind your back all year. There's a reason this is, again, statistically the worst starting 5 in conference finals history since 2008 in terms of net rating. There's a reason they've been a negative since Christmas. There's a reason there's something like minus 10 for the playoffs, and yet Tom Thibodeau doesn't believe in numbers, doesn't believe in math. In the year of our Lord 2025, he just keeps going back to it, and it didn't help that Josh Hart on his best nights can erase that, right? He can be so effective as an offensive rebounder, gutsy enough as a three-point shooter, creative enough as a playmaker, getting you enough in transition, getting you occasional drives in the half court, playing good defense that he makes up for all that. Tonight was not that night from Josh Hart. He was terrible on both sides of the ball. It's been a theme all season long, Alex. He gets beat on 3 different back cuts on this one. 2 of them on sideline out of bounds plays where you should absolutely be focused. I need to rewatch to see if he got clipped by a screen or if miscommunication on a switch. But what I saw watching live was him twice beat by Benedict Mathurin, once by Ben Shepherd. Mathurin over and over again, who had sucked in this series, was driving on him and scoring the basketball. I saw a fan tweeted us. I did not get a chance to confirm this, but allegedly the first player in NBA history to score 20 or more points in 13 or less minutes in a conference finals game. So shout out to Benedict Mathurin for that. He was a sieve on the defensive end of the floor. Him and OG Anunoby down the stretch this game botch another switch that leads to a Siakam layup. He was just bad defensively, and offensively, Alex, he was again even worse, both in terms of passive impact and his active impact. Like, he had a good first 5 minutes, and then turnover after turnover after turnover, particularly in the second quarter, telegraphing multiple passes to Karl Anthony Towns, a possession where he just dribbles the air out of the basketball and shoots a three with a guy in his face after not really trying to do anything. He stepped out of bounds on a catch with 3:20 left in the third after the Knicks had cut it to 5. Some people coming out of this one might rightfully say, well, Jalen Brunson was abysmal defensively. We will get to that. That is the other area I want to go. Mikal Bridges was bad in this game. A lot of areas you can start. I cannot get over Tom Thibodeau's absolute blind spot for Josh Hart, absolute blind spot for the starting lineup, and the Knicks are on the brink because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to completely throw away all the good things that Josh Hart has done in his time with the Knicks.
Sure.
And like, I think that he's had some phenomenal games. This was, I think, the worst game that he has played in a Knicks uniform. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Like, given the stakes, given everything else, this guy is normally like a playoff riser. This was terrible. This was, I've never like yelled at my TV more or sent more angry messages in group chats or anything about one single player than I did Josh Hart in this game. And the fact that, again, it comes back to Tibbs, like the fact that I can see that and see this guy is giving the ball away like it's his job. He's committing just the stupidest fouls and just completely bailing Indy out time and time again, like getting to the point of like, oh, you know, you've just about forced the miss here, and then just like grabbing someone or pushing them or getting too handsy or whatever, especially once like, look, I thought the refereeing sucked in this game again too, and that's been a consistency theme this series too, but he has to learn like that he's under a microscope. Like for whatever reason, Josh Hart was under a microscope. Like he was getting all the ticky-tack stuff called on him on the rebounds while you've got like Siakam dragging OG down by his jersey and not getting called for fouls, whatever. But you got to adjust. Like you have to like play smarter than that. If a guy has you beat for a layup, or if a guy, you know, like the one of the Mathurin was like falling out of bounds as he's going up for the layup and Hart still fouls him. And it's like, dude, he's got like a 10% chance of making the shot. Like, and he missed it. Go figure. But like, he didn't miss it because of the foul. He missed it because he was already falling over out of bounds as he was driving in on it. And then Hart bailed him out anyway. And it's just like, dude, he played like an idiot. It was terrible. I could not stand watching him on the basketball court in this game. And I hate to put it on any one single player. Like it wasn't all his fault, obviously. Like they did manage to almost come back towards the end of this game, but it was in spite of him. Like I found myself like praying for his sixth foul, and it came unfortunately like 4 minutes too late. But like if he could have gotten his sixth foul with like 5 minutes and change to go, and you throw Landry Shamet out there, who like, look, I would have loved to see Deuce out there too, but it seems like Tibbs just is completely against that idea for whatever reason. So seeing anyone out there, Shamet, I thought played great again. I thought that he like did a really good job of showing that he deserved minutes and that he deserved to be on the floor. He made a three at one point. He was at least getting respect as a shooter and like being respected all the way out to the 3-point line, because you have to, because he's a career 40% 3-point shooter. And Tibbs just didn't think about that at all. As per usual. I mean, it's just yeah. He's willing to go down with the ship with Josh Hart, and unfortunately, I think after this game, they did go down with the ship together, no matter what anyone else on the team had to say about it.
Yeah, and look, you could come back next year. You could have a better coach. You could have a better rotation. Cleveland tried that, and they lost in the second round, right? It takes so much luck to get to this point. The Knicks have had the injury luck. All these guys are smack dab in the middle of their primes. Again, there might be years where they're better. This was a rare opportunity against a 4 seed in Indiana, who we keep saying it like is maximized, is fantastic. I don't know if we'll touch on Tyrese Halliburton before the end of this episode. The guy is incredible. He's very annoying. I understand why Knicks fans hate him. 32, 15, 12, and 4 steals, right? He's an amazing basketball player. The Knicks have the talent to beat this Pacers team. And right now, barring a miracle, and I just don't see, I cannot comprehend a way they beat this team 3 times, continue to play the same lineups, and knowing Tom Thibodeau, he, when pushed to the brink, he will do a change of appeasement. And for him, that is like, let's just be as big as possible, right? And I was not okay with that in the sense that I prefer Deuce. I was okay with that, and that was preferable to Josh Hart. But push comes to shove, always goes with his gut. always goes with his instinct. And in some ways, that's been great for the Knicks. That's went out for the Knicks. This team takes on his personality. They're stubborn. They fight. Like all that is real and all that is valuable. But there is absolutely a ceiling with Tom Thibodeau as your head coach, at least with the way this roster is constructed. Maybe last season's team that was built just perfectly for him. They could have gotten a little bit further. This year, they have just completely failed to maximize the fact that they have 2 of the 10 best offensive players in the league in Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. And because of it, I cannot see a way that they beat a Pacers team that is maybe not quite as talented, but is still spectacularly talented and is completely maximized by Rick Carlisle. I think they've been I know we can say, obviously, the Knicks should have won game 1. Obviously, it should be 2-2 right now. I think the Pacers have been the better team through 4 games. And to your point, I think this was clearly the most defining win by either team in the series on that front, and maybe tips the scales in that direction.
The Oilers are 1 win away from going back to the Stanley Cup final.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
To start things out, and I think anybody who watched this game would agree with me when I say this, the Stars came out in that first period with some real juice. You could tell the Stars understood the gravity of the situation, that they had a real responsibility, a real obligation to push as hard as they could out of the gate to try and set the tone, to try and get themselves in control. Because even though that hasn't worked to their effect through these first few games of the series, it is their game. By and large, even with Mikko Rantanen in the fold now, the Stars are still a possession and cycle team. And it's really interesting to watch play out because you saw it in those first 2 rounds against Winnipeg and against Colorado. The Stars were largely absorbing pressure. They were waiting for counterattack opportunities, and they were hitting guys like Rantanen, hitting guys like Rope Hintz, and creating off of the rush. In this series, even though the Oilers have done a really nice job defensively, and we'll get there, the miraculous third period where they only conceded 3 shots on goal against, the Stars are controlling the puck. The Stars do have the puck more, but the beauty of it and why the Oilers are having such great success playing as much defense as they are is that it's pretty clean. And there's a few aspects to defense when we talk about it technique-wise and strategy-wise that we don't always do the best job of hitting on or explaining, but one of the real keys and one of the reasons the Oilers have been so good in transition in this series is the simple matter of the fact they feature mobile and puck adept defensemen. When you go through this group 1 through 6, you can make an argument this is probably the best defensive unit remaining in the playoffs overall. Now, if we're going to go by my gym class theory, we're going to go by talent as a quantity and you add up all of the talent, I think you can make an argument Heiskanen and Harley and Lindell put the Stars probably slightly ahead. But when you go blow for blow, guy for guy, the Oilers have 6 guys you feel really good about. And don't look now, but Matthias Ekholm has a chance to play on Thursday in a potential closeout game. And you add one of the NHL's best defensive defensemen to a group that's already playing really high-end defense and doing it with guys who are all walking very interesting career paths. And that's really the first big point I wanted to talk about on today's show. I had done a hit over the weekend on MGM TV to talk a little bit about Oilers Stars Game 3 going into that game right before at 3 o'clock on Sunday. And they had asked me what was the biggest difference for the Oilers this year versus last year. And I hit on no McLeod, no Holloway, having a healthy Evander Kane, having a healthier Draisaitl. If you recall, Draisaitl really started to hit a physical wall the longer the playoffs went on. And then I really pivoted, and it really kind of hit me going into that third game just how good the Oilers defense is in comparison to what it was last year. And Some of it is simply a matter of some positive regression swinging the Oilers' way. And some of it is a byproduct of smart decision making. I think when you know you've had Brett Kulak in the fold for a few seasons now, and you know what his strengths are, and you see he has the capacity to play slightly more minutes, and as the regular season went along, the Oilers increasingly ticked up those minutes. And now he's played some time with Evan Bouchard on that first pair. We, of course, have to talk about the Jake Wallman, John Klingberg pair, which would not have been on the team 2 months ago and has played really well in this series. And then Darnell Nurse and Troy Stecher have put together really solid numbers as a pair in this postseason. Stecher able to move the puck a little bit better, Nurse able to go and retrieve it, absorb a little bit more pressure, win some foot races, use his sides to win puck battles. But the Oilers are winning this series largely off of smart strategic defense. And God willing, it's been Stuart Skinner, which a week and a half ago, I said was one of the reasons I could see the Oilers very much losing this series. When you factor in, and it's why goaltending is such voodoo and why there's no real way to know, and why I'm always going to err on the side of, do you really believe in your goalie, or are you just riding the hot hand? And of course, anybody who's well-versed in math will tell you the hot hand idea is a fallacy. It's not based on evidence. It is not something that is going to translate and necessarily be predictive going forward into future production. But right now, Stuart Skinner's outplaying Jake Ottinger. And I think it's hilarious. I say that in a game where the one goal Jake Ottinger gave up, he was horrendously out of position. The Robertson goal, and look, Jason Robertson's a very good shooter. I know he's having a rough playoffs, coming off of a serious injury, probably playing pretty dinged up, but Skinner was already dropped onto his in the butterfly when Robertson hadn't even released the puck yet, or at least was on his way down into butterfly when Robertson had released the puck, because Skinner had lost the puck in transition. And Skinner has continued to make the saves he's supposed to. And that's your goal here if you're the Oilers. Can you get Skinner to make the saves he's supposed to? And there's a higher volume of them, a higher frequency of them than there were in some of the earlier games in the Vegas series or in the LA series, where they really had needed Skinner to make some plays for them. But so far, he's done a reasonable job of keeping the temperature of these games down. There's no crazy swings. There's no crazy runs. The Oilers are keeping the temperature manageable. They are playing defense. They are absorbing pressure. They're playing too high zone defense, if you will, if you're well versed in where the NFL is at right now and how all these defenses are trying to mitigate this army of young gifted quarterbacks like Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud. I could go on and on. All of those teams trying to slow those guys down are playing no doubles. They're fine with letting you dink and dunk underneath, get the ball out quick to the sideline, try and get the ball to playmakers, let them make plays in space. Kind of what the Oilers are doing right now, where the Stars are holding the puck a lot. They're moving around the perimeter of the offensive zone, but they're having a really hard time getting that puck inside. They're having a really hard time cutting to the net and creating dangerous offense. And this has been the Stars' recurring issue for much of this Hintz, Heiskanen, Ottinger era. And I know they're very early on in their life cycle as a Stanley Cup contender because their key building blocks are on the younger side. But part of the reason they went out and they gave up Logan Stankoven and those assets to get Mikko Rantanen was for him to make a difference in a series like this, where the Stars have always had the depth and they've always had the quality goaltending and defensemen. But as I've said a lot on Locked On Oilers, and the everydayers have heard me say this quite a bit this regular season in particular, the most valuable thing you can have in the NHL is an elite forward, and then an elite defenseman, and then an elite goalie, because that's the order in which those can impact the game most to least. And I'm not knocking the elite goalies. I'm knocking the elite defensemen. It helps if you can have all three. Look at what the Lightning were able to do with a Kucherov, with a Hedman, and a Vasilevsky. If you can have all three, great. But if you can only pick one, you're better off having the elite forwards. And you are watching the Oilers play that out in real time with a group that has been really piecemeal as far as the goaltending between Pickard and Skinner, and the defense, where you had to trade for Jake Wallman ahead of the trade deadline. You saw John Klingberg out of free agency coming off of major double hip surgery. You pieced together Troy Stetcher, who you've brought in and out of the lineup over the course of the regular season. You don't know if or when Matthias Ekholm will be back in this series, but to have a piecemeal defense playing at this high of a level, they don't need a whole lot offensively to go their way. And it's why they've been able to get by with 2-3 goals in this series.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between the dining out, the online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. Track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast.
The big news is the attendance piece. And the good news is that pretty much every player was there. Every player except for one, and that being James Cook. James Cook, the only player not there. And obviously there's a contract negotiation that's been brewing for several months. And the latest is that it appears James Cook is going to miss organized team activities. Now, they are voluntary, which of course is notable, but it doesn't mean that it's not significant or meaningless that he isn't there. Of course, they are voluntary, and he has the right to make the choice that he's making, which is to further press, right, the negotiation for a new contract, which he's entering his fourth season. He's had 2 good years in a row. We know how running back negotiations can be, right? These are big moments for them. And this is the move that James Cook feels is necessary to get the deal done. And Sean McDermott said that he's staying in touch with James Cook like you'd expect from a player and a coach. And McDermott said that he'll be here when he's ready to be here. And of course, this is just the latest piece of this James Cook narrative. And I think there's 2 different schools of thought to approach this from. One being, well, does it matter that he's not there, right? We kind of talked about this yesterday, where reps either matter or they don't. And so this is the way I look at it. I'm not concerned. I'm not worried. I'm not panicking. But it would be helpful for the team for him to be there. It would be best for the Bills that James Cook was there and practicing and getting reps. And he's the Bills' starting running back. He's going to touch the ball probably more than any other player on the offense this year. It'd be helpful for him to be there. So I don't want to make light of it. But of course, there's nothing to really be worried about. But it would be helpful for the Bills' offense and for the Bills' team if he were there. You know, this is a really unique situation that we haven't seen Brandon Beane have to deal with. He's been able to get extensions done with players, and they haven't been vocal through the media, right, about their demands. They haven't not participated. It's different. It's a different situation. And so it's kind of prompted me to think about this situation more from the lens of Brandon Beane and what's important to him. Is it about resource allocation to the running back position? We hadn't seen him pay a running back yet. It hasn't happened in Buffalo. Devin Singletary, 4 years and walked. Hasn't went through with drafting a running back in the first round yet. Has not paid a veteran running back yet. So is it just resource allocation and it doesn't matter? He's not going to pay a running back. He said he would, but I really care a lot more about actions than words, and we haven't seen him do it. He's had opportunities, hasn't done it. So is it resource allocation to the position? Is it resource allocation to James Cook? Is it the stuff that I talk about that I have brought to the forefront every time we've talked James Cook? And it really comes down to what he's asking for versus the player that he's proven to be and how I don't think it adds up. Does Brandon Beane see it the same way? Is it the contract demands in general and his approach to the situation? Like, what is it for Beane that has James Cook feeling like the step he needs to take is to not be there? Which also prompts me to bring up this question. What if James Cook was there? Everything was the same, right? You're still working towards the deal. Everything that's happened to this point has happened, but James Cook was there today. What would we be saying? What would we be saying? Would it be, oh, wow, James Cook is serious about this year and really wants to show that he's going to put in the work and time and maximize this opportunity to land the deal that he's after? Because I'm not sure what's going to be different here. What new piece of information other than it's mandatory is going to get James Cook to be at the facility practicing and getting ready for the season? What if he was there? What would the narratives be right now? What would we be saying? I think it'd probably be a lot of positive publicity. I think I'd have some very favorable things to say. I'd be like, wow, I was not expecting James Cook to be there since it wasn't mandatory, but he's there, and what a great sign. So I think that's worth talking about as well, is how these conversations would be different right now if he was there. And we expected for James Cook to not be there, right? At least I did. It would have been a surprise if he were. But the news that nobody wanted to hear, we also got on Tuesday afternoon when Sean McDermott met with the media and shared that Joey Bosa popped a calf and is most likely going to be out for the spring and should be good to go for training camp. Just not what you want to hear. The whole narrative, the whole story with Joey Bosa is availability. And he's been really injury prone, especially over the last 2-3 years where things have really piled up. And we can't even get to our first OTA practice with Joey Bosa without a calf injury that's going to sideline him until camp. Now, Joey Bosa, obviously a veteran player, has played a lot of football. But still, like, this is the guy that you want to see ramp up, get calloused up, be healthy, and cash in, right? Big year for the guy. Age 30 season coming up. Injuries have been the story, although he did play in 14 games last year, not including the also playoff games, so 15 games. But this is the narrative. And narratives exist for a reason. And this will be the narrative with Joey Bosa until he's able to prove that he's healthy. And this is just not a good start. And I know that there's a lot of people that right now are saying this is why the Bills shouldn't have drafted him or picked him or signed him, whatever I'm looking for. Signed the guy, right? Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of the way that thing shaped up. I even said that at the beginning of the defensive end targets conversation where I said, look, I'd let some other team find out if Joey Bosa can stay healthy and make the impact that we know he's capable of. But then it kind of got to the point, like, let me remind you, it got to the point with the defensive end market and the trade market and those types of things where you're like, well, I guess for a 1 year, was it like $12 million? You could kind of find yourself believing that this is the right path. So far, we're not off to a great start. See what happens with camp. We'll see what happens during the season. A calf injury right now doesn't mean that he's going to miss games or that his entire year in Buffalo is going to be hampered with injuries, but we can also acknowledge that this is not the ideal start at all. And I was thinking to myself, if a player had to have a calf injury and be out until camp, the one player you'd probably pick for it to not be would be Bosa, because you want those injury narratives to go away. And, well, they're not going away. They're intensifying. So I guess the concern here really comes from if this lingers or if he has another injury, a different injury, what does this defensive end room look like without Joey Bosa? I mean, in the first 6 games of the season, you're, remember, not having Michael Hoyt as he serves a suspension. So if you had to do this without Bosa and Hoyt, your defensive end room looks like Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, Landon Jackson, a third-round rookie, and Javon Solomon, a second-year player. That'd be your group. It's a whole lot better when you have one of Bosa and Hoyt, and it's really exciting if you have them both. But unfortunately, the conversations we are having right now. All right, let's kind of keep working through the nuggets coming out of one Bills drive as the Bills opened OTAs on Tuesday, May 27th. Sean McDermott was asked about the tush push, which lives, right? The NFL did not receive enough support to ban the play. And it's a very interesting dynamic because the Bills are a tush push team. The second most in terms of using the play is the Bills after the Eagles, and the Bills are very successful with it. And they use it all the time. And of course, what has been confusing for a lot of people, including myself, has been Sean McDermott's commentary along the way. And Sean's on the competition committee. And so he's been asked a lot about this, and he's been vocal in that he wants the play gone. He wants the play banned. And he doesn't like the safety of it. He doesn't like the optics of it. Yet his team uses it the second most of any team in the league. And so Sean was asked about the tush push, and he said, we'll play within the rules. Well, the rules say you can do it. Sean McDermott says that it's not a safe play. Josh Allen's your quarterback. So either Sean McDermott is just truly embracing the role of competition committee member versus head coach of the Bills and like approaching it from two completely different lenses, or I just don't understand the congruency with what his team does versus what he says. Because if protecting Josh Allen is critically important and you don't think it's a safe play, well, then you wouldn't do it, right? You wouldn't do it. But he said that Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator, will play within the rules. Okay. So I guess the Bills are going to keep using the tush push, despite Sean McDermott openly discussing that he doesn't feel like it's a safe play. All right, so there's that. Sean McDermott was asked about the Bills being chosen for Hard Knocks, and I thought his answers to that question were interesting. He said, to some extent, it's a real compliment that the Bills were chosen now that the criteria has changed. Of course, the Bills have not been eligible for Hard Knocks until they change the criteria. And then the first opportunity that they have to bring in a team that's been a playoff team, they do, and it's the Bills. And Sean went on to talk about it being a great opportunity for the fans to get a look inside. And he said there's a lot they will see, a lot that they won't. He liked that they'll see how much the players love each other and acknowledge that the challenge is the authenticity of the building, that trust between the players and staff and bringing the team together. That will be challenged because the cameras will be present. But they said, or Sean said, that the authenticity must stay intact. And so I like that he's saying, look, we got to do what we got to do to get ready for a season. Maybe it's a little bit more challenging to be authentic because there's cameras around, but we got to stay the course and be who we are.
The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorites or diving into player props from three-pointers to steals to assists. There's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
The Tennessee Titans start phase 3 of the offseason this week.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast.
Will Levis must get his opportunities in Tennessee Titans OTAs. He must get his opportunities now that we're getting into phase 3 and things are set to change a little bit. Now, I know that this may sound weird. Tyler, you're the guy who's been raving and ranting for weeks about how the Titans can't give any of Cam Ward's opportunities to Will Levis, about how Will Levis needs to be traded, needs to be off the roster, this and that. How could you possibly get on here and say that the Titans need to make sure that Will Levis gets his throws? Well, it's this simple. We need to have a discussion about how the rep distribution needs to be broken down. And then it'll make a lot of sense. But why? Why does it matter now? Why is phase 3 different? Let's talk about that first. Because phase 3 of the offseason is where the Tennessee Titans can, as a team, legally do 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 drills as a full team with the veterans. Rookie minicamp, you could do 7-on-7 and stuff like that with the rookies. But as a full team with the rookies and the veterans, phase 3 is the first chance that they get to do, again, 7-on-7, 11-on-11. It's not full pads. It's not live, but this is the closest to actual football that we are going to get until training camp. So if you're going to say that, the earlier stuff doesn't matter because it's just individual, they're pushing sleds, they're doing strength and conditioning, they're doing individual drills and stuff like that. If you're saying that stuff doesn't matter because it's not true football, well, this has to be the first off-season work for the Titans that does matter because it is full team type activities. So this is where things are going to matter more as to who's getting the reps. How many reps are they getting? Are they repping with the first team? Are they gaining chemistry with their receivers? Are they, working through all the things that happen? This is when it actually matters the most. This is when the importance level ratcheted up to a new level, okay? This is when it matters more. So Brian Callahan said last week that so far the quarterbacks have been splitting the reps evenly because it's just individual work, just getting throws in, working on your drops and stuff. But he said that is likely going to change this week that we're in right now, phase 3. Now the reps actually matter more. You can't just can't give even reps to Tim Boyle as you do Cam Ward. You can't do that now. But how are the reps going to be split out? So that's why it's more important because Brian Callahan even said, hey, the rep distribution probably going to change now that we're getting into more true team football activities. But what should that be? Well, look, I don't know what the rep distribution is typically in an offseason. Like when Logan Woodside was the backup to Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill was clearly the starting quarterback, like going into 2021. Does the starting quarterback get 70% of the reps? Does he get 60% of the reps? Now, I know some of you are like, wait, it's the starting quarterback. They should be getting every rep. That's not how it works, all right? The reason that you have 3 or 4 quarterbacks in a training camp is because your starting quarterback can literally not throw every single pass that needs to be thrown throughout an off-season activity or throughout an off-season program or training camp or mini camp. You can't do that. That's insanity. So let's just, for conversation point, say the starting quarterback usually gets, in a normal situation like, Josh Allen with the Bills right now, or Baker Mayfield with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or even Sam Darnold in Seattle, Brock Purdy with Mac Jones. Let's say the starting quarterback gets 60% of the reps in phase 3. And then the backup quarterback would get 30% of the reps. And then the third string quarterback, the camp arm, would get 10%. Let's say that's just for conversation, let's say that's the divvy out. Well, the point that I'm making here with Will Levis is Cam Ward needs that 60%. So that aligns with everything that I said before of they can't waste Cam Ward's opportunities on Will Levis. But the backup quarterback still needs to throw a lot in the offseason, in mini camps, in training camp. So what I'm saying is they need to treat Cam Ward like the starting quarterback and give him the starting quarterback lion's share of the reps. But Will Levis should not be pushed to the side and get the 10% and be the third string quarterback. Will Levis needs to be treated like quarterback 2, and he needs to get 30% of the reps. And here's why. Because it's best for the Titans to get the best version of Will Levis, even if the best version of Will Levis is not going to be on the Titans long term. It's that simple. Do you want Will Levis to not improve at all from last year and then go into the preseason with no improvements? Do you want Will Levis to have zero chemistry with the wide receivers he's going to be throwing with in the preseason? God forbid the Titans don't send Will Levis off the roster in a trade before the season starts if Levis has to actually play and be the backup quarterback, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. I don't want it to happen. But not everything that I believe and want and this and that is what happens. Maybe the Titans truly do keep Will Levis as the backup. Well, if that's the case, then he needs to be prepared as a backup. So whether it's to get the best version of Will Levis that you could possibly have in joint practices, in the preseason, with the idea that you're ultimately going to move on from him. Heck, it could even happen during the season, I guess. With the idea you want to get the best version of Will Levis because that's going to be the best version or the best thing for the Tennessee Titans. So you need to get him acclimated with the rest of his teammates. You need to get him improved and playing his best football. Look at what happened with Malik Willis last year. We all swore up and down Malik Willis isn't an NFL player. And the Tennessee Titans improved Malik Willis to a point, and Malik deserves his credit for working hard too. But under Brian Callahan, Malik Willis got to a point where he was mightily improved in the preseason, and that led to the Tennessee Titans getting a draft pick for a player that they didn't intend to keep around. Whether they should have kept him around or not is a different discussion, but the same philosophy is applied to Will Levis. So my only point here is I want Cam Ward to get starting quarterback reps. Cam Ward should get starting quarterback reps, 60, 70%, whatever it is, typically around the NFL. But all I'm saying is second in line, the second most amount of reps for a quarterback, that has to be Will Levis.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between the dining out, the online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. Track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks.
The big news is that five-star Richard Wesley is no longer committed to the Ducks. I don't know why the phrase decommitment or decommitted wasn't being thrown around. It was he's no longer committed. He has got visits lined up to a variety of schools, including Oregon, by the way. I do not expect this to be a recruitment that Oregon's just completely out on. But it certainly came as a bit of a surprise. Not entirely, but right now he's got visits lined up in the month of June and into August as well to Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, and Texas A&M. So this came 17 days after the video we all saw of Dan Lanning jumping into a pool with Richard Wesley. Maybe he's just out there trying to have some fun. Maybe he's just playing games with people. But this has now shifted Oregon's 2026 recruiting class back to they don't have a commit since February. So right now, Oregon's recruiting does not feel good. My panic meter yesterday, 4.5. It's about a 4.5. Like, boy, not having Wesley stay committed. I'd rather hear what, guys like Tredarian Ball have said. I shut down my recruitment. I'm locked into Oregon. Tristan Phillips, linebacker who came on the show a while back. He was an awesome interview. If you missed it, go check it out. He's not going anywhere either. I would certainly rather have that. Oregon doesn't appear to just be done recruiting Richard Wesley. He was always planning to take other visits. And maybe, if you want to take a positive spin of this sort of situation, he wants to go into these visits without being tied down to a school, and he wants to go in more open-minded and assess all of his options. But Oregon's still going to get a chance. And do I think it's strange that he and Dan Lanning made a video together and then he decommitted 17 days later? I do. I find that strange. It's not something I can remember having seen before in my time covering recruiting here on the show, which is several years and many, many dozens of kids at this point. But alas, it's 2025, and this is just the world that we have got. So that wasn't a great piece of news, wasn't necessarily shocking. And then the other news that came yesterday was Alai Kalani-Uvalu flipped back to BYU. And so he's a member of the 2025 recruiting class, is going to take a 2-year LDS mission. When he committed to Oregon, after flipping to BYU from Oregon, this is, I believe, flip 4 in his recruitment. I lost track, quite frankly, at this point. He looks like a guy that can be Oregon's starting center one day. He could still wind up with the Ducks. We don't really know. He's from the state of Utah originally, and an LDS kid makes sense. He'd want to go to BYU. I don't know all the inner workings of why the flip-flop, the back and forth, the push and pull and tug and all that sort of stuff. Don't really know. You know what I noticed yesterday, though? And I will point this out every day until the national narrative flips in the mind of every college football fan in the world, which are mostly in the United States, but there are some outside. There are some outside the United States too. I notice that when a kid flips from Oregon to another school, there is no accusation of, oh, it's just NIL. Nike Phil Knight. They just throw those words out there with no actual meaning or reasoning behind it. They just say Nike Phil Knight. BYU's heavily committed to NIL. Where's the slander? Where's the negative perception of BYU's program? I notice it isn't there. I think it was Ari Wasserman recently was fighting the good fight on Twitter not long ago, pointing out that Oregon takes more NIL slander than most other schools in the country. He's 100% right. I've pointed this out for a long time. The Nike Phil Knight thing is the lowest hanging fruit for college football fans. But when kids flip away from Oregon, nobody else has big NIL dollars. That might have been what's going on here. I don't know. This is me speculating. Want to make that very clear. A kid who has flipped or committed to one school, flipped to another school, flipped back to the original school, then flipped back to the original school. Yeah, he could just be fielding offers saying, they offered me this amount. All right, well, we'll offer you this amount. Oh, okay. Hey, we'll offer you this. It could have happened. Could have happened. I have no idea if it did. But if that was on your mind as it was on mine, yes, that is entirely possible. Yes, I know for a fact that does happen with recruits. No, I do not know that it happened for a fact with Alai Kalani-Uvalu. But I want to emphasize what I mentioned earlier, which is my panic meter for Oregon recruiting is at a 4.5. Because we're about to enter the danger zone of sorts, if you want to call it that. Like, if Oregon is going to get another top 10 class, which is, for me, every year, the offseason expectation is a top 10 recruiting class, the in-season expectation in the 12 and soon to be 16 team format, which is gross. Have a top 10 class, make the playoff. Every year. Those are the baseline standards of success. So there are still plenty of other big names Oregon is after. I can't see them missing them all. I was definitely disappointed. They missed both Jared Curtis and Jackson Cantwell, who were the top players at their positions, quarterback and offensive tackle, respectively. They went to Georgia and Miami, not exactly a couple of slouch programs with guys that don't know how to recruit. And oddly enough, of course, those programs have different ties to Oregon, Lanning coached under Kirby Smart at Georgia, and Mario Cristobal was, of course, Oregon's head coach once upon a time. So there are still plenty of names. Oregon's visitor lineup for the summer and the players that they're going to be going after can still get this class. Don't think they can get to the top 5, but they can get solidly inside the top 10. And that's not a bad place to be. But it definitely feels, it doesn't feel great. I'm not going to sit here and gaslight you and do, oh, everything's totally fine. Like, no. The last couple months, I can't imagine if you got a member of the coaching staff to speak with full candidness, or if you got them to speak candidly, I don't think they'd say, yeah, we never expected to land any of those guys. We were fully prepared to mess on all of them. Like, no. They went out and got them committed for a reason. They went out and were part of the recruitment for a reason. Like, they wanted to get some of them. They know they can't get all of them. Yet that should never be the expectation. Certainly, it has not been a good couple of months on the recruiting trail. The summer months, though, particularly June, because now there's a dead period in July, so not as much is going to be happening around that time from, a visit standpoint. I think kids could still commit during the month of July. Decorey Moore, of course, committed last year on the 4th of July. June should be a month, if this recruiting class is going to wind up where we all expect it to be. June should be a red hot month for the Ducks. They have got a lot of visits lined up. You've got Messiah Hampton, a 4-star receiver, committing on June 13th. That's a name to watch out for. Oregon looks to be in a good position. Ryder Lyons, we don't know, 5-star quarterback. That's a name to watch for. You got Emmanuel Iheanacho, who's not committing until August, 5-star offensive tackle. Like, those are just some of the names that Oregon's going to either get on campus, has already had on campus, will get on campus again. Like, there's still a lot to be had. Yes, they have missed some pretty notable prospects. And by the way, Richard Wesley is one of those prospects. When do we get concerned?